Quick Slants is presented by your local New England Honda dealers.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into Quick Slants. A brief reprieve, yeah, it was. You needed that. I needed that. The Patriots needed that. More than anyone, Bill Belichick needed that. From beneath the pile of humiliations that have been stacked on them this year, the Patriots stuck up their hand and gave a feeble thumbs up. They're playing hard. Their defense is maddening to face. Does it change anything? No, not really. The state of the roster, the state of the quarterback position, being the worst team in the AFC, those are all facts regardless of what happened against the Steelers. The decision the team faces on Bill Belichick at the end of the year remains the same. And he hasn't delivered improvement, certainly the hope for improvement that the Patriots hope to. A little too late, a little too little against the Steelers. Not enough to alter the course. But it did give Bill Belichick a runway to have a very good weekend with Army-Navy at Gillette. We're going to get into that a little bit more as we see him revel in it. Here's the game plan for tonight's program. See, I say that and it pops right up. A quiet Kraft. A little quarterback TLC. Julian Edelman, the great one. He will join us. And there's a poll. And there's comments. And there's Michael Holley. Mike.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. You're right, Tom. You know, last time I was here, I don't remember when it was gloomy. It's nice to not be in gloom, even if, it doesn't really matter. It's a more pleasant experience to be here and talk about a team that, put forth an NFL caliber showing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, the indications that I got after the Indianapolis Colts game in Germany were that, a decision had been reached on Bill Belichick and that at the end of the season, there would probably be a parting of the ways. Now, feelings can change, moods can change, but I just don't foresee any way that Bill Belichick could change the minds of the folks who will ultimately be making that decision. Do you?
I don't, and that's just following the mandates from Robert Kraft year after year after year. He's kind of let it linger. We want to make it to the playoffs. We want to win the playoff game each year. It keeps adding up, and now you're in year 4 without one. If that's what the owner wants and it's going the opposite way, you could make an argument the past couple years that they've been close, it hasn't quite there, but there's progress. If it's going the opposite way, then it's pretty clear what's going to happen.
Yeah, and as I said before, they've removed all ambiguity. There is very few reservations about the direction of the team at this juncture. Meanwhile, it's time now for Quickfire, presented by your local New England Honda dealers. First up, here is Pat McAfee and Robert Kraft on the ESPN Game Day set Saturday. All's quiet is right. You know what's funny is Robert Kraft hears that. He kind of looks over and everybody else goes, did I just get sold down the river here? What would Robert Kraft have said had he had enough leeway to answer?
Probably your standard, we want to win. We want to win this week. We want to get back to winning. I don't think he would have addressed anything specifically, but that was a little bit awkward to say the least. And Pat McAfee said the next day he didn't mean that everyone knows he's going to fire Bill Belichick, and I kind of believe Pat McAfee because why would he back down?
Right.
But boy, was that an awkward couple of seconds there.
Yeah, I mean, he inferred that what he was saying was, I don't envy you, the decisions that you have to make at quarterback with Bill, et cetera, not that it's inevitable that Bill Belichick will be relieved of duty. Anyway, speaking of, well, this isn't really a relief of duty. This is Patriot. As the Baltimore Ravens signed him off the Patriots practice squad to add him to their 53-man roster. Opportunity lost, Michael Holley.
A little bit, yeah, and there's two quick reasons. One is it's not as if you've had great quarterback play this year. I think a lot of people were eager to see something different there, and the fact that we saw him get, 2 snaps in Las Vegas at quarterback is disappointing. And then secondly, I think there was some stubbornness there, Tom. They signed him as a receiver. He had never played the position in his life. They had him out there covering punts as a gunner, and he goes out there in the preseason debut and shines at quarterback. And what happens the next week? He's out there at receiver looking bad at it because he's never played it before. So I think had they seen that result on the field in the first week, I think it was against Houston, they should have stuck with it and seen what they had. Now they'll never know.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, because that is kind of, and again, Malik Cunningham going to the Ravens is not what we would call another straw on the already broken back of this camel, but you look at it and say, well, what was the concrete plan? You put him up as the backup against the Raiders, and then he never saw the field again. Meanwhile, Bailey Zappe's the backup quarterback, now the starter, but he couldn't have been the backup against the Raiders. It's so convoluted. These are the things that we point to when, despite the win against the Steelers, you say, I just don't know what the plan is down there. They better have a plan this week because Patrick Mahomes is coming to town, and he's mad.
I mean, obviously tough to swallow. I mean, not only for me, but just for football in general. I mean, just to take away greatness like that. I mean, for a guy like Travis to make a play like that, and who knows if we win. But as I know as fans, you want to see the guys on the field decide the game.
It's not easy getting called for offensive offsides. But I will say this. They got hosed the week before on a downfield pass interference that should have been called. Hosed. Don't.
What about the inbounds hit before that?
Doesn't matter.
There's a balance. There was a balance.
We're not going tit for tat, okay? We're not going tat for tit. We're just simply talking about game-changing plays. But, so I can understand Patty being sour, but you have to throw the flag, eh?
Yeah, he was offsides, and he admitted it today, finally. But my favorite part of that Mahomes postgame rant was this false sort of, it's not me, it's other people. And you might have robbed Josh Allen of his big comeback, and you ruined it for other people. And I didn't say anything about last week. I didn't say anything about last week's PI on Marquez. I didn't say anything last week about the PI on Marquez. As you noted, I have not said a thing about it. There was a lot of anger there. It's built up. Unfortunately for the Patriots, I think the brunt of that will be borne out next Sunday in Foxborough.
Yeah, they're a pretty good team, regardless of the record, and they are 8-5, which is still pretty good. Meanwhile, Christian Barmore was asked today about tankerific behavior.
There's a school of thought among some people out there, some fans, who would prefer the team to lose games down the stretch in order to land a better draft pick. What would you say to them if you had an opportunity?
I talked to Bill, man. We ain't here just like to get games up. We here to play football, you know.
You know what? If Christian Barmore walked up to me after I said that to him and he said something, I'd say, you know what, Christian, you're right.
Position group-wise, D linemen are the last people I would ever say I'm hoping you guys lose this week. That's just an intimidating process. And I think that is something, though, I don't know how ingrained in people's minds it is. Those guys that play out there, they don't know that they'll even be on the team next year. No one has any security in the NFL. So they're going out there to play well, to earn their money, and maybe earn their next contract. They're not worried about draft position in the least.
No, and it's interesting, too. Look, this team is going to have continuity, even if Bill Belichick is not on the sidelines. You have most likely Gerard Mayo as a successor, perhaps Bill O'Brien, a large segment. And this is a program. It's not just a fly-by-night, trunk-slamming bunch of guys. There's a bunch of people who have a tradition here. Meanwhile, the tradition is taking a year off. 3-10 record, 1-6 at home, 1-5 against teams with losing records. The 103-point differential, that's the worst in the AFC by a crap ton. And 6.0 points per game in the second half. We do this every week just to re-emphasize that it ain't going so good, Mike.
No, it's not. And, you know, it is good they won when they did against Mitch Trubisky, looking about as bad as we've seen anyone play quarterback this year, which is really saying something from a New England perspective, because these next few games, it would take quite the upset to win any one of these three. So it was a brief reprieve, to quote a wise man named Thomas, because it's looking difficult these next few weeks ahead.
It doesn't look great. All right, meanwhile, we always like to turn to you folks out there and put out a poll, and the poll results are presented by Haas, perfecting the art of fresh.
Whoa.
Malik Cunningham has been signed by the Ravens. Look at this. This is a tight one. Your reaction is opportunity missed. 51.3% of you. It's not a big deal, to be honest. 48.7% of you. Let's hit it. The milkman always rings twice. Missed opportunity. Wasn't expecting much from him, but I still would have loved to see him get a chance to play in the regular season. I got to be honest. Pats Nation 91. Not a big deal now since the Patriots will get a top 5 pick. Good point, Pat. Rich Bonner. Bill only wanted him as a receiver. See, this is what Hurley said. Rich, you and Hurls are reading off the same script. Next up, Hamilton. Simpat 1. I mean, he's exciting and all, but he's a third or fourth string quarterback. I liked him. But there's plenty to get our panties twisted about before we get to this. So, when it comes to panty twisting, Mike, where would Malik Cunningham fit on your list? Top 10, top 25, somewhere in the top 50?
Well, having watched DeAndre Hopkins last night, we were reminded of offensive skill players that can make a difference. I agree, it's not the biggest thing in the world. It's just, and to go back to it, at some point this year when Mac Jones was struggling and Bailey Zappi was struggling, the moment was there to say, give him a couple series at the end of a game, see how he looks against NFL talent, not preseason talent, and you kind of have an idea. Again, there's a great chance that Malik Cunningham never becomes an NFL quarterback of any substance, but you might as well see it while you have it there.
It is funny, when we do all the panty twisters and enumerate them. DeAndre Hopkins actually gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
He was friggin' dominant last night.
He was really good.
But who are you more agitated about, him or Jacoby? Because Jacoby was in the nest.
He's been very good too.
Yeah. All right, coming up after the break, we're going to get into the quarterback position. Just how tough is too tough when it comes to making a quarterback? I mean, to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs, but come on. Growth Potential, brought to you by Dr. Matthew Lepresti. Look younger, feel younger, get your hair back with Leonard Hair Transplant Associates. Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's just a silhouette of Ryan there. Had this to say last week on Amazon Prime's pregame show. Mac Jones is definitely broken. Mentally, emotionally, he's broken. I look to a few similar examples of first-round quarterbacks that have gone through struggles. Tua Tagovailoa, who I was with, Fitzpatrick being a former Dolphins quarterback. Brian Flores using the same techniques that were used in New England. Tua was broken for Brian Flores. Time now, ladies and gentlemen, for my slant, and that Ryan Fitzpatrick silhouette will forever be etched in my brain. The question is going to linger through this offseason, and when we look back with hindsight, how important was it to have the correct care and feeding of the quarterback? Would Mac Jones have been a better player if in his second year, Josh McDaniels was succeeded by someone who did a better job shepherding him through his sophomore season? Meanwhile, what will the Patriots do going forward about staffing the head coaching and offensive coordinator positions for whoever comes in as quarterback? To me, finding the right fit, finding the right emotional maturity, finding the right mixture of good cop, bad cop is essential. Listen to Tua Tagovailoa. This was him last week speaking about Austin Jackson, right tackle, who the Dolphins re-signed. He actually choked up saying this. You have someone like Mike, meaning McDaniel, and his coaching staff come in and basically build you back up post Brian Flores. And it's not just Austin. It's really everyone that's been here for some time, and to kind of give you that renewed confidence in yourself to just go out there and play the way you've played. Can that happen with Mac Jones? Can the Patriots build him back up, or will it have to happen someplace else? Most likely, it'll have to happen someplace else. But if the Patriots don't have it front and center to figure out what kind of coaching acumen and approach they want with their next quarterback, it's going to be a bad road, Michael Hurley.
Yeah, it is. And you mentioned, Mr. Fitzpatrick mentioned he's broken physically, mentally. I think his relationship with the head coach is broken. And I think that's something we overlooked this year, or maybe said it won't matter as much. We said, all right, Patricia and Judge won't have anything to do with the offense. This kid gets it. This kid is accomplished. He's a smart kid. He'll figure it out. I think we overestimated how challenging that can be if that relationship with the head coach still isn't quite right what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be all love, hugs, and kisses, but there has to be some level of operational there, and I don't think it is.
Yeah, and we've seen over the years, look, hard coaching from Bill Parcells to Drew Bledsoe, from Charlie Weiss to Tom Brady, from Bill Belichick to Tom Brady, from Charlie Weiss to Drew Bledsoe. And some guys have the acumen to deal with it, and we'll talk about this with Julian Edelman a little bit, and some guys don't. We could talk about it being generational, but the bottom line is some guys have a breaking point. And I think Max was higher than most guys, but the Patriots still were able to find their way to getting to it. Meanwhile, here's Gerard Mayo speaking today about the potential that he could be the next Patriots head coach if the Patriots move on from Bill Belichick.
I only try to control the controllables, and that's out of my control. Hopefully, as you guys all know, one day I want to be a head coach. Where that is, I don't know, but at the same time, I would say I have a lot of love for New England. I have a lot of love for the fans, the people around the building, and my family, they love it here as well. So that would be great if I could stay here and continue to progress throughout my career, but we'll see. And honestly, there's really no anxiety to it. Whatever, I'm not trying to get too spiritual, but wherever God wants to take me, I'll be ready to go.
So it's a weird spot because you have Gerard Mayo, who certainly has been fostered in his NFL career by Bill Belichick and his coaching career by Bill Belichick. But as we look at perhaps a succession plan and Gerard being at the center of it, is it uncomfortable for him to take over if Bill really doesn't want to go?
It doesn't strike me as an uncomfortable guy in many situations. And Tom, I was on this call and my jaw almost hit the ground because in Foxborough, it is now proven you can answer a question honestly and the world doesn't end. He answered a question that could be considered a distraction or controversial or headline grabbing, and he answered it honestly. And now we have a better understanding of where he's at. Incredible stuff.
No tsunamis, no tornadoes.
Everything's still
no
alive.
Volcanoes. Wednesday at 6 o'clock, catch the game plan. Disco Tommy Giles has the latest from Foxborough as the Patriots get ready to host the Chiefs. The game plan presented by your local New England Honda dealers. Julian Edelman back after the break to weigh in on all things Patriots. Mac, Bill, and what happens next.
He's kind of broken. Ryan Fitzpatrick the other night on Prime, he said, look, I look at Mac Jones and he's broken. He's broken emotionally. He's broken mentally. And I watched the same thing happen with Brian Flores. He was broken. You brought in a coach that worked better with him, and it made things work for Tua because it was the kind of coaching you needed. When it comes to coaching, and you were a hardly coached guy by both your dad, by Bill, by everybody, how hard is too hard when it comes to coaching?
That question's probably changed. That how you rank that. A lot in these last 10 years with the newer player. And I'm sure that meter changes to go softer and softer every 10 years. Like the guys that were getting coached when I got in the league hard was probably a different way than, the guys that are getting coached hard now. So I think how hard is too hard? I mean, you got to know your players. You got to know your players, and if your player needs to be coached hard and he's that kind of guy, you got to coach him hard. If not, ultimately you're trying to do what's best to get the best out of the player.
Is it hard for you to listen to the scrutiny and second guessing? Look, I know Frank can't stand it. Your dad will call me once a month and say, will you cut it out with Bill? Will you just leave him alone? But is it hard to hear the scrutiny and the second guessing?
It's not, because I can actually remember a time when we were getting something and we were talking about the media. And I remember Bill saying, like, they're just out here to get a story, his whole Bill thing. And he goes, there's going to be a time where they're going to turn on me too, or that's just, so he put it in my head. So I guess I'm not surprised, and it's a production business, and he knows that. He knows, he's been around. He's been in this probably situation back when he was in Cleveland, so he knows what he's dealing with, and it's not easy, especially with the success that we've amounted here in New England for a long time. It's just so new.
Do you think it would be disloyal if Robert says, hey, we're going to have to go in a different direction? Do you think Bill would perceive it as such? Not ungrateful, I guess.
I would say, I would say that they'd have to have a hard conversation at the end of the year, and lay everything out, I don't think. I think you gotta see what Coach kind of wants, and maybe Coach doesn't want to be there anymore. I mean, maybe he does. If he doesn't, I think he's earned that to be part of that decision. But I mean, also, Mr. Kraft could lay out, hey, look at this. look at the draft picks, look at what's going on, look at these last couple seasons, and Bill's done that. Bill's done that to everyone. Bill's done that to me. When I went in there for a contract, hey, you're not as fast, you're 32, you're coming off an ACL. Why should I pay you that? Like, there's going to have to be a hard conversation. And I think Bill would understand that.
Hey, what did Bill Belichick mean to you as a football player and as a guy and going forward?
Ultimately, I feel that he gave me my opportunity. And that's, as a guy that was in my situation, there was a lot of things that were stacked against me, and this guy, he drafted me and he helped develop me, and I saw by example of how you should prepare in the National Football League. So I love Bill. Yeah, he's an asshole. I don't know if you can swear on this, but yeah, he's tough. But that's not everything you do is going to be easy and sunshine and rainbows. Like I didn't love studying for tests, but you still had to kind of do it to go do a test. I hate taking cough syrup, but it helps the cough go away. There's all these things that you could put in the same kind of parallel with it, that you hate doing things, and there's always hard things. You're going to get bitched at, you're going to get yelled at, but usually, it's for a constructive reason. And
Bill Belichick is human cough syrup. You need him, don't like him.